Just something I'm adding to the beginning of this review because I forgot to mention it, but there's a few scenes in this movie where a ghost appears and then disappears, and as they disappear, you see a cloud of steam left behind, and it's very brief. I know this was years upon years before King wrote Doctor Sleep, but I kind of wonder were elements of the story kicking around in his mind because I know he did write the screenplay. I'm not saying it was, but I think it was just interesting knowing what the steam cloud means in Doctor Sleep. So here's the Shining review. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back. Today we get to the third and final part of The Shining. Before we begin, I've actually done some research on Melvin Van Peebles. He was not only an actor, he was a director, a screenwriter, an author, and I believe even a composer. So this man actually has accomplished a lot in his life. And this is where we get Jack's final descent into madness. This part picked up where it left off with the hedge animals getting ready to pounce on Danny, and yeah, the CG's horrible, not defending it, not gonna try. Wendy has to break a window in an office to get out, which makes more tension with Jack. And then they hear the party at night and the elevator stuck, and again they get into another fight, and this time he actually shoves Wendy, and and Danny manages to talk some sense into him. And then when Wendy goes into the elevator and finds confetti and whatnot, actual physical remains showing that these ghosts are really physically manifesting now, they get into another fight and Danny puts the mask on, and it was Jack that sees it. He's like, "Doc, what are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm pretending to be someone else because I don't have to be around your fighting." And it was another great scene, and it shows Danny does have a power to reach Jack, and this is important later. He finally gets to the point where he's looking in the hotel and he's like, "I could use some whiskey," and a voice responds, and when he goes upstairs, he gets the scene with Delbert Grady, and he pours him a drink, and Jack starts drinking and interacting, and eventually he goes into the ballroom and there's these ghosts. He's talking and interacting, but that's what he's seeing, and we do see a clip of what's actually going on, and he's in the room moving around by himself, but the ghosts are physically beginning to manifest. Danny hears it and tries to stop him, and one of the ghosts stands in the way and blocks him from leaving the staff quarters. So he reaches out to Halloran, who's at a diner in Florida. There's a Shawnee Smith cameo. She plays a waitress. And he has this moment where he jerks back like he's having a heart attack. And he's like, "I'm not having a heart attack. It would be better if I was. I'm not the one in trouble." And he gets in the car, leaves, and we get a whole subplot of him getting back to the Overlook with even a Sam Raimi cameo. And Jack is at this point delving further into sanity, and at one point Grady tries to talk to him like, "You need to kill your family," and even at this point he's like, "Well, what if they were to leave?" And he's not doing it, and he's even more reluctant at hurting his son, but he finally descends into that madness, and we have the first encounter where Wendy knocks him out, and her and Danny bring him and lock him in the refrigerator, which of course the ghosts do let him out. The big difference, he uses the big wooden croquet mallet. It was called something different in the book, but in the miniseries they explain it's Denver croquet, where everything is twice the size of regular croquet. In this scene, even for TV, 90s TV is brutal. He gets her down with the mallet, and he just starts, he doesn't go in for the kill, although he tries a few times. He'll hit her in the knee, he'll hit her in the chest, and it's one of those things where, yeah, although both sound pretty horrible, having this guy come at you with this giant wooden mallet is a lot scarier than Jack Nicholson with the axe, because with the axe, it's either going to be an insta kill or you're going to bleed out pretty fast. With the mallet, he can prolong your suffering for a very excruciatingly long period of time. And I'll say at this point, when he finally does snap, he even manages to give Jack Nicholson a run for his money. Which, and I know some people that might be obsessed with the Kubrick movie are probably frantically typing in on the keyboard right now. Save it. It's your opinion. I don't like that movie. I'm willing to meet you halfway on this one, so give me some breaks. And this scene, listen, this scene is great. She gets away by the Denver croquet ball. She throws it at his head and it busts him open. And we do get the chase back into the apartment, and it's similar to the axe scene where he's using the mallet to break the door down, and he interacts with the ghosts again, and he even offers one of them a try. There's still a part of him trying to get out of this, and he breaks open the door, and he doesn't do the "here's Johnny" moment. He just looks in and goes boo, which, I'm fine with. I'll give that moment all the credit in the movie. It deserves its iconic status. To have him say it would have just been, yeah, that would have cheapened the scene. To just look in and do his own thing and say boo works better. He chases her into the bathroom, only this time we don't get the idiot from the Kubrick version trying to squeeze through a window that's too small. These windows, although she tries this after Jack leaves, but these windows, although it looks like she could squeeze through, they're snowed up. She takes a razor, cuts him, and this is when Halloran arrives, so he goes after Halloran. He manages to down, but not kill Halloran, and the ghosts are like, your son's the pressing matter, so he goes after his son, because at this point he's even about to deliver the final blow on his wife, and then he goes looking for Danny, and Tony has one last interaction with him, telling him, you will remember what he forgot. Well, that happened before, but this is where he shows him what you will remember, and he shows him the boiler, and Jack corners him, and I'll admit some of the dialogue is clunky, although I know it's in the book, like when he's calling Danny a little pup and saying it's time to take your medicine. And I'll admit that dialogue could have used a little work, like I said. And not like I said, but it may work alright on the printed page, but there is a difference between dialogue sounding good on paper and it being said out loud. And you little puppet does sound kind of awkward, I'm not gonna deny, but Weber brings an intensity that he's absolutely threatening, and I'd argue his version is scarier because he does have those two halves. He has the moments where he can be warm and caring, and then he has the moments where he's unhinged and looking to murder. So again, like I said, it's just more compelling for me, and Danny finally stands up to him and he's like, I'm not afraid of you, and he even tells him, I know you're not my daddy, you're just a mask, because there's a scene earlier after they knock him out, Danny's even rubbing his unconscious father's head, and he's like, I know this isn't daddy, it's the hotel making him do it, he's sick and he needs help. And this is where Danny proves that. He reaches out to his father, and Jack manages to fight through it, and he begs Danny to run and leave. And then Jack goes crazy, starts swinging the hammer, and he comes back, and Danny hugs him, and then the insanity starts to come back, and he tells him, I know what you forgot. And he's like, well, what could a young pup like you remember? And he says, my daddy forgot to dump the boiler. The boiler is getting at the point of pressure where it will explode. So Jack runs off, and then Danny comes. He's like, he forgot to dump the boiler. And Holleran's like, we gotta go and quick, get to your rooms, get warm clothes. And Danny manages to grab Jack's play. And he's like, come on, Doc, whatever it is, it better be important. And Jack starts dumping the boiler. Him and Danny have a conversation through The Shining, and he realizes, no, this needs to end. At this point, they manage to get through to Danny, so they're able to physically manifest, but he lets go, fights it away from them, and Jack's able to raise the boiler, and he dies with the house exploding, and that's the big difference. Jack dies the hero in the book and in this version. He dies the hero his son always thought he was. And we do get a final scene with Danny's high school graduation, and Halloran shows up. And it's a nice scene because you see the closeness these people had, where Halloran and his mother's talking, and he's like, now for the important question, is there a new man in your life? And she's like, no. And after Danny graduates with high honors, we see his father's ghost appear to him, and this may be cheesy to some people, but I found it a very emotional moment where he does get a proper goodbye with his father at his high school graduation. Even though the scene where it's just him, you see him interacting with nothing, is awkward, but like Halloran says, it's just a happy ending. And then there's the little clip at the end I could have done without, with the sign saying the Overlook's being rebuilt. Greatness can't be allowed to die. I'll give this version, this part, a B. It's definitely my favorite part with the most emotional weight in it. So that's my take on the Shining miniseries. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully it will encourage some of you to check it out. So not sure what the next video is going to be, or even when this is going to be uploaded, so my Halloween Kills review may or may not be up by now. So, like, share, comment, subscribe again. Over and out.